So you guys did this yesterday. What's this about?
It's kind of
It,
like a very like
Mhm.
surreal type of poem. Uh,
Okay.
it's a bit
So,
confusing.
mhm. Confusing?
Like, when I first read it, I was kind of like confused on what was going on.
Okay, let's see. Let's look at the structure. We see it's a short poem, so we know that it's only four stanzas. And I was reading it through, and I see that there is the poem is quite unrhymed. We don't see any rhyming here. Um, But we do see some half rhyming. So after the fair, I'd still a light heart and a heavy purse he struck so cheap. We do see some half rhymed poems. So the structure is more like four stanzas, half rhymed. Okay. We see a lot of we'll come to it. Okay. So once we do the read the poem, then we'll go over the poetic devices as well. Okay. All right, let's see. So the poem goes like, after the fair, I'd still a light heart and a heavy purse. He struck so cheap. Um, and a kettle dotted on him in his time. Mine only dropped. I think the author is Irish. I think they're talking about the Lammas festival in this. Uh, Mine only dropped here first fat ice cream. You can tell that. I'm not sure. It's so they're talking about a fair over here. So it's talking about a fair that they visit. So they were referring to. So the setting of the poem is at the Lammas festival. Okay, that he's been at the fair and he found someone that he wanted to hire. So they're at the Llamas Fair. That's the setting. Okay. And when you do a bit of research, because when I was looking up for the PDF before you sent it, I saw that Llamas was a festival that was more of the a harvesting day. It's a Christian holiday. I'll just go over it. Yeah, it's a Christian holiday that's celebrated in the English speaking countries. Let's look a little bit more about it. Okay, so Lammas Day is on the August 1st, and it's a harvesting event. So it's a Christian event, and it happens in English countries. It is a traditional day on which the wheat is harvested, usually on the August 1st. So here we know that the entire setting is at this fair, where the author right now is present. Okay, and a heavy purse he struck so cheap. Um, and a kettle dotted on him in this time. So the whole poem is revolved around some farming and harvesting and all of these animals and farming. Okay, so then he over here he struck so cheap. The he whom he is referring to is in the line is the farmhand that he has hired. Okay, so because it's going to be a festival, so we can assume perhaps that it's an English speaking country. Okay, and they're at the Llamas festival, and it is a harvesting festival where they harvest wheat. and he is so he decided to hire somebody to help him around on the day. To help him out. He is describing the day as heavy purse, okay? It's still a light heart. They're doing a little comparison here, right? So the heavy purse and light heart kind of creating the opposites over here. And he's trying to say that the person who he hired had a light heart, despite of him having enough money. He was able to hire this man's help at a very cheap price, and this perhaps is making him wonder as to, how did he, agree to such a low payment. Okay. So now he's retelling a story where so let's see, mine only dropped. Are you clear so far? Do you want to add anything? Are you there? Oh, you
Oh,
are. I
I
thought,
dad.
yeah. Any confusion?
No. So it takes place in like around August time,
Mm-hmm.
the first day of August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So he says, later in the next lines, he says, and cattle dotted on him in his time. Mine only dropped. He fears fattest cream. Yields doubled. I grew fond of company that knew when to shut up that one night. He is referring to this particular person that he has hired. Okay. And he's talking about how this particular man has been of good company for him. Okay. He liked his company. I grew fond of the company. Why did he like his company? Is because he knew when to talk and when he knew when to not talk, right? So we know that he sees mine only drop here first fattest cream. We see some simile here. Yield doubled. Now things are happening like his wheat, the yield, the farm, it's growing. Okay, so he sees some growth and he's really happy about that. But he's also really fond of his the person that he's hired because he knows when to speak, when to not. So he's referring to that. We see that something bad is about to happen though. So he was having fun with him, he enjoyed his company, but then at the end of the stanza, we see something is going on. There is a catch. Then one night, so we in the second stanza, they're obviously going to talk about something. But we see a little hint at the end of this stanza that things were turning out fine, and he found somebody for such a low salary, and he was willing to take that much money, and he was happy with that. And eventually, something happened, and then one night, now something bad is about to happen. Let's
Yeah.
see. You never know. So, disturbed from dreams of my dear late wife. So we find out that uh, this guy's wife is dead, and his he still has dreams about her. So she's still there in his memory, right? Disturbed from dreams from my dear late wife. So I hunted down her torn voice to his pale form, struck still in the light from the dark lantern. Uh, Um, stark naked, but for the fox trap biting his ankle. Let's pause here. Okay, what is going on? Any idea?
Uh, for this part,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm guessing it's like My dear late wife. Like, I mean, now we know more history about the speaker, I guess.
Okay, yes.
At this point, like we know that his wife
Mhm.
passed.
So we know more about the speaker, more info. Fine. Okay. And
When
then,
he
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
says he heard her voice, I'm guessing like I'm not sure actually at this point.
Okay, no worries. So, we see that it's it's he still dreams about her. So he still has dreams about his wife,
Yeah.
and so that means he still thinks about her,
Oh, okay.
right? You only dream about things that you think about, right?
Yeah.
Um, so he's really absorbed in his dreams. When something has actually happened, right? Stark naked, but for the fox trap biting his ankle. There is something that has happened, and so he does. What he does is he's gotten out of his bed to see the the voices that he's hearing. Okay, and we see I hunted down her voice to his pale form. So when he goes around and finds his pale form, he sees some mystery going on around when it says in the light from the dark lantern. Uh, he can see that this man has is gotten stuck in the fox trap. What is a fox trap? Let me Google. Fox
Foxtrot.
trap. The neck strap? Oh, okay. So this man, the man has gotten stuck in this fox trap. So it's probably the man he has hired. Okay, so when he goes outside out of his bed to see, he sees a mysterious thing that this man is stuck in the fox trap. How did he get there? Now, in the middle of the night, there's something really strange has happened. So when it says, I knew him a warlock, a cow with leather horns, to go into the hair gets you muckle sorrow. So when whatever man this farmer seen, he was up to something. We know that there was something weird happening. It could be something strange, perhaps like a paranormal or otherworldly kind of a situation. So the poem is in this case kind of hinting towards there's a vague message of that it could be something from otherworldly or supernatural. Okay, and
Okay.
that's the reason why you know um you didn't
Is
understand much. Yeah, because the
I'm not
the whole
familiar with this type of
yeah
stuff. Like,
if you see over here the words using
is Warlock like a wizard, kind of,
I
right?
knew him a warlock, yeah. So obviously they're using a lot of farmer terms. So we do see here, so we do see some supernatural stuff. Yes, warlock, good identification is perhaps a witch or a wizard. So we see some supernatural things going on. Okay. And when he uses the word muckle sorrow, it's perhaps the actions of a wizard. So this involves you to get into witchcraft. So maybe he had this biting fox trap attached to his ankle because of the things that he was doing. Perhaps the supernatural things that he was doing. So the Makal Soro is the witchcraft or the actions of a witch. So this is related to witchcraft. So whatever he was doing in the dark, and he has dreams about his wife, he hears torn voices, he turns pale when he sees things, he goes in a dark lantern, so the setting is dark and scary. And he sees that to this particular place, he hears all these things, weird things, and then he sees a man perhaps practicing witchcraft. Okay, so we see that to go into the hairs gets you makul suru. Um, this is he's commenting perhaps it's perhaps it's an Irish chant over here that is that he's referring to. So he and if you look at the English countries, Ireland, England, they used to really believe in ghosts and supernatural being. There's a lot of British writers and Irish writers. The Cantable Ghost is one of the a very famous short story as well. So they do believe a lot in ghosts and supernatural. So the theme over here we see is a very different theme from what we've done in the past. Okay, so there's a lot of supernatural here. The wisdom runs muckle care. I leveled and blew the small hour through his heart. The moon came out, so we could say that, when they say witchcraft, he's trying to say it's the full moon when he says the moon came out. So he's creating an perhaps an environment here. Perhaps we see some imagery, but it's yellow witness. I saw him fur over like a stone mustang. I'm not sleeping tonight after this poem.
It's creepy.
So okay, so we see over here. Um, do you know what enjambment is
Yeah.
in poetry? What is it?
It's basically like when the line goes off to
Yeah,
like the next line, if
so
that
you
makes
see
sense.
it here.
Yeah,
You see
there's
it happening here. He is continuing the line. It's a poetic device, and he's moving around. He's continuing the sentence here because he's perhaps it's like him retelling a story or an incident, right? Um, so we see some enjambment here. So he's talking about a witch chant, which is, like I said, is the Muckle Sorrow, the Muckle Care. This is it's something he's referring to an Irish witchcraft chant. Okay,
mm-hmm.
okay. We do see enjambment here as well. Change the color to this. And he blew the small hour through his heart. His fear at this moment in the small hours of the night, he was really scared of what is actually happening, okay, because he would have been a lot more we're very brave during the day, but when it comes to the night it gets very scary. So we see we see some setting, and where he is talking about the healing and the moon coming through the full moon. When he says the word healing, um, where so he's referring when he says he's referring to the healing, the healing, the this is him referring to his employee, the guy who he hired earlier. So he's narrating a story or an action done with him, right? So we see some imagery where he's describing his features, his head thin, his top lip gathered, his eyes raised like bread. I carried him. So perhaps you know how this the eyes raised like bread is reminding me of an exorcism kind of a scene where there is something going on with him, and he had to carry him, which highlights that he was not conscious. So perhaps there was full moon, and are you getting my point? His eyes were probably rolled back.
Oh,
Yeah, his eyes raised like bread, his top lip gathered, his head thinned. He's describing his transformation of how his features is completely changed, and this has happened on a full moon. Maybe he was a witch. Maybe he was a witch, and this happened to him on a full moon, right? Perhaps on the 1st of August, perhaps around that. Okay, so he carries him, he carried the body, so it shows that something obviously has gone on, right? So in a sack that grew lighter at every step. Okay, so he's referring in a sack. This he's saying that he did not perhaps the body was the person was perhaps dead, and when he says in a sack that grew lighter at every step, here you see some um he's actually using some symbolism here where he's actually not talking about the physical weight but the weight of the guilt. um at every step the guilt felt lighter that he was dead, so perhaps there is no regret or sorrow that the body is, is there. So he and dropped him from a bridge. Did he throw the body off the bridge? Um, because when he says the lightness of the sack, he's perhaps talking about the fear. The fear within him he is going. So not just the guilt, rather it's the fear that was there when he entered that place, but now his fear is going because he can see that the person is probably dead, and he drops his employee off the bridge. Okay, here was no splash, no splash. Oh my God, that's scary. Um, when he throws the bag into the water of the bridge, he hears no splash. What does that mean? And keep in mind that is the ending of the poem. There was no splash.
for that part, oh my, there was no splash. Oh, also there was a mistake in this PDF for where it says
Mhm.
now my head's elf shot. It's supposed to say now my herd's
Okay.
elf shot, not my head's.
Okay. Um,
So the A is supposed to be an R, if that makes
all
sense.
right. Okay, fine.
I'm sure that
But
it makes
still,
perfect.
here was no splash. This could only mean two things.
He's a wizard, like I don't know, like maybe he
Yeah. Okay. It could mean that he's a wizard. Now, the writer is leaving the reader in irony for
yeah.
them to figure out what is actually going on. Either, either he's a wizard. The person's body just disappeared when he threw him off the bridge. Or when he says, I don't dream, he is denying that he might not just be dreaming right now or sleepwalking. Or was there really something in the bag?
Oh,
What
that's
if
true.
he is hallucinating, considering?
It could be like maybe when he says at every step then dropped him from the bridge, I guess it could be like maybe some sort of obsession or like insomnia. or like,
Considering he's been, he was dreaming about his wife, and because he was dreaming about his wife and he heard her torn voice. So when she's dead, how can he hear her voice? So maybe he's still in his dream. Have you watched that movie called Shutter Island?
oh no, I haven't.
You should watch it. It'll probably make your mind go crazy. This poem is reminding me of that.
Is it the one with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that one. I think
You should watch it. You'll I was just holding my head and I was like, what did I just watch towards the end of the movie? It,
is it
it was
really
just
like
like, what did I watch? It's like this. It's like no, I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but it's like this. It's really messed up like this. So
oh,
this poem is really reminding me of that. You should watch it over the weekend. It'll
oh,
remind you of it
is it like a
because it
psychiatric
yeah,
thriller?
because it leaves the reader into thinking that was it really him as a wizard? Was it the wizard? Or was it him just hallucinating or sleepwalking or dreaming? Now there's always going to be a divided audience.
All
In
like
my perspective, yeah,
yeah, it's all just like a mystery to
yeah,
the
yeah.
act.
So the whole thing is a mystery. Now, in my perspective, he is hallucinating, he's sleepwalking because he was dreaming about his wife and he hears his wife's voice, which I do not think is something that can happen when he's in conscious state. So I think he's sleepwalking, but you never know. But we see him making more like a, because remember it's a Christian event, and so he's ending it with a "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned." Is the Christian confession phrase where they sit in that box thingy and confess with a father. And so the final line kind of reveals that this entire story has been an entire confession told to a priest when he's ending towards this poem, we find out that he was narrating an entire incident and a confession. It has been an hour since my last confession. So we know that it is a confession to a
That
priest.
yeah,
Yeah, because
using
um, um, so it speaks his he's here to talk about his guilt, perhaps, to what he might have done to that guy he hired, right? So the Lammas hairline or hireling, he is kind of you know he was fearful that he did wasn't what he did wasn't enough, and that he was just really scared that whatever that creature was or whatever that wizard was, he is going to come back. So he has that fear that the hireling or the wizard will come back. So he's here trying to confess what has actually happened. Dun dun dun. There. This was a very weird poem. Okay? Yeah? Are you there? Can you hear me?
sorry, what did you say?
So did you hear
Mm,
the ending? That
no.
he had this fear that the Highland will come back. That's why he was confessing to the
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
priest. Yeah. Okay. So we see all of that, and it's more of it's a reflection of so we can say that it's a reflection of his actions, a confession from church,
Uh-huh.
and um, we can we get an idea that the story is it might be a fantasy or an unrealistic story. Maybe uh, the writer perhaps did this on purpose to seem to he creates um the actions that are they're kind of working towards the end of the poem to create confusion. So you could say that the narrator he seemed impossible, and he was creating a confusion by the end of the poem to kind of reinforce the confusion for the reader. And it kind of really makes it also made us wonder whether what he's saying is actually true, or make us question that did this really happen?
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps an appearance versus reality even, right? um so there's a lot of supernatural going on, warlock, night, dark, the setting we could say is around there. We see full moon, we see darkness. Um, we see the theme of supernatural. We see um perhaps the guy with those
Like
raised
so.
eyes, the fox
Yeah.
strap, perhaps, and what was it? The bread like raised eyes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that could be referring to, the that the person his Highland was possessed.
Yeah. The farm as well. Oh
Fire,
no, the fair, the fair, not the farm.
the fair. Yeah, the fair was your, yeah, 100%. We know that it was the Lammas fair, an annual religious event, harvesting season, and that's there. We see, yeah. So think there was no splash was a very important part of highlighting the theme of the poem, and the so you could say that the line that said there was no splash supports this supernatural. That is what kind of creates more. So he had been creating an entire fearful setting when he demonstrates possession, but there was no splash is what really creates the confusion in the minds of the uh reader. So the supernatural idea theme is being given out here, and he talks about it has been an hour since his last confession. That highlights the theme of guilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
we see a lot of we see we see some the Lammas fair itself. This also demonstrates the culture because it is uh, the
like,
harvesting festival. Yeah. So I think this covers the entire poem.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Any questions? Any confusion? Is it still as confusing?
it's a lot more clearer now. Like I'm not as confused.